I got so worked up during the Grace journaling call today because the topic that I was talking about in the reel that I posted yesterday about the whole thing about doing nothing, that came up again where people were saying that they were getting messages like, be patient and wait and all of this stuff, or like do nothing. And the reason why I feel so strongly about this is that's literally impossible. Doing nothing is not possible because at all times, if you're awake, you're doing something. Of course, I don't blame people for like getting that message because that's something that people say all the time. What are you doing? Nothing. What are you doing right now? Nothing. And so it's like we have the do nothing thing in our mind, even though it's literally not true. And so anyway, listen. This is why I started getting so fired up about this. And I'm sick and tired of this whole patience thing. Because you mean to tell me that God made heaven and earth and humanity and all the creatures on it in 7 days? This is what people claim. And you think I can go to the God of the universe, a supernatural power, and be like, hey God, what's next? I'd like some guidance. And he's like, I don't know. Do nothing. Let's be honest with ourselves. Does that sound like an infinite, all-powerful, all-knowing God that created the universe in 7 days? Even in the Bible, okay, because I'm a biblical scholar now. Even in the Bible, when the Israelites are walking around in the desert, the reason why it took them 40 years is because they were dicking around the entire time. It's not because they weren't being led or guided. It's because they weren't taking the guidance. The delay is self-induced. To me, God is a big deal because of this very premise. It doesn't matter if you literally think God created the universe in 7 days. I don't care about those specifics. It's the idea that there is a supernatural power that has that capacity, that can do that. If God can create the universe in 7 days, I want that. If God can do that, what can he do with this? That's why God is interesting. Because even a drop of being able to tap into that will move mountains. That's the point. So once you tease apart all the baggage that you've been carrying around about God, then it becomes, well, don't you want to see what God does with your finances? Don't you want to see what God does with your career? Don't you want to see what God is going to do with your love life? Don't you want to see what God is going to do with your health and vitality and well-being? Aren't you curious? Aren't you kind of interested in that? I would say right now, 99% of the Muggle world puts all of their faith in action. That's the dominating God in culture at the moment. Action is everything. But God cannot move in your life. God cannot dazzle you if action takes that slide. You have total free will to worship action if you want. But understand, the fruit of worshiping that God, action, will only get you practical results. If action is your God, then you're going to get practical results. If you are more interested in a divine supernatural God, then God can come in and knock it out of the park. Then the fruit of worshiping something supernatural will yield supernatural fruits. But as I've been talking about in the 7 heavenly virtues, you are not going to take an interest in a divine supernatural power if you don't believe it's good, and you don't believe it loves you, and you don't believe that it wants to co-create with you. If you don't believe that part, then you're not going to seek that God. You're going to worship something else. Anyway, come to church.